What is up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Two Game Podcast. We are here with the final episode, for now, the final episode of our Lord of the Rings deep dive series. We are diving into part 2 of the Rings of Power. We are going to be deep diving into episodes 5 through 8. So if you have not listened to part 1 of our deep dive of the Rings of Power season 1, then you should go back and watch that episode. That'd be beneficial, I think, because we dive balls deep into that shit. I think for an hour and a half, we talked about 4 episodes. It was fantastic. I have to say so myself.
I enjoyed it.
So, like I said, this week we're diving into episodes 5, 6, 7, and 8. So if you have not watched those episodes, highly recommend going to watch those and then come back to this deep dive series. We are going to be using the books only to further expand on the lore that's in the show. So not saying, oh, this didn't happen in the books. We're not really judging the show based off of that. But we've also done the OG trilogy, we've done the Hobbit trilogy, and then now the Rings of Power. And then season 2 coming up towards the end of the year. I think they said the summer, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully, I don't want to, mark anything down here, but hopefully, episode by episode, we could do it. That'd be great.
I'm here.
I'm down.
Down, face down.
Always.
All right, guys. So we're going to start off with, obviously, episode 5 called Partings. So last week we ended the episode with kind of where we thought, or I guess more so where I thought it was going to go, because I haven't seen the series versus you two that had. Very interesting. Very interesting to see where things land towards the end of the season. And also, Creston and I have already decided, Nick, that you can go ahead and go fuck yourself about the season finale, and we're not gonna take any shit from you.
Hey, bud, let's not get ahead of ourselves, okay? We got time for that. We can shit on him.
We got 3 episodes to get through first.
Episode 5, Partings. The Harfoots set out on their migration, and some creepy human-looking people show up at the meteor site that the stranger landed. Now, again, when I do my thoughts, these are thoughts as they happen for the series, okay? This is not me going back and saying, oh, I'm changing my thoughts and whatnot. So if you notice incorrections, just hold that thought, okay? Just hold that thought. And you'll notice in the first 2 seconds when I say it. Old dude looking sinister as fuck when he gets down there to the bottom of the crater. Looks evil as fuck. So adding him to the list of potential Sauron contenders there, okay? And I'm just going to say, I don't know for a fact, okay? No future spoilers. But this was the picture that I had mentioned in part 1, that I said there was some dude, I can't remember if it was Adar or if it was this guy. This is the guy that I was thinking of.
Yeah.
That was potentially Sauron. So it'd be interesting. Just keep that little nugget there, guys. Adar stares off into the distance at the sun. He asks an orc to show him his arm. The skin begins to burn while Adar's does not. He tells the orc to summon the legions. So this does somewhat answer if he is an orc or not. At least not completely. Because he's not burning with the sun and shit like that. So who the fuck is he? That's the question that I have right now. And what I thought was funny about this particular scene, I don't know if y'all notice it, but he's like staring off into the sun and he's like monologuing about whatever the fuck, right? And this orc that he deeply cares about, his skin is just burning away.
Just on.
And this dude is just zoned the fuck out while this arm is just casually burning. I'm like,
I wish
hey,
you
bro,
could feel like I do. Well, I don't, bitch. I'm cooking.
like I'd have been like, hey, bro, like I know you're Faja and whatnot, but can we like do this in the shade? Like, just like 2 inches this way, man. It'd be great. In the Tower of Osirith in the Southlands, Waldrig convinces half the refugees that they will be better off joining the orcs. Because I don't know who the fuck thought that was a good idea. Yeah, let's just join the orcs. They'll totally welcome us with open arms. Great fucking idea. Just stupidity.
He's old. He's been told all those stories about the Southlanders joining up with Morgoth and shit, so he'll believe it.
I'm trying to put myself in their shoes, and you gave me the choice.
Oh, white guys from the South. There's just like a little bit of racism in there, like, you know.
Wait, still what?
Like crusty old white guys in the South. There's like a little bit of racism there, you know.
He wanted to make the Southlands great again.
Yes. Galadriel tells her that Halbrand will be accompanying them. Muriel, that will be accompanying them to tell the shit. I'm gonna start over. I just had a stroke. Galadriel tells Muriel that Halbrand will be accompanying them to claim the throne of the Southlands, but he does not want to, and accuses Galadriel of using him.
She forgot to tell him that.
That sounds like a wife, right? So last episode I mentioned, I think Halbrand might be lying about something. I think he's lying, but I don't know for a fact if it's who he is exactly. He gives her back the necklace that identifies him, and he has no interest in being king. So I think it's weird. He's off. He is off. I'm questioning whether I believe him at this point on whether he is actually Halbrand, because we mentioned it in the last episode. I think we talked about it for a couple of minutes at least. Of, is he really who he says he is? And well, I don't know.
Quite red flags, but some yellow flags for sure.
Exactly. Like yellow flags on the beach. Like, you might not want to go in there. And the other kind of questions that I'm kind of having at this point is, why is he so hell-bent on not going back? And it's got to be something bad that he thinks he doesn't deserve to be back or to be king or whatever the case is. So lots of questions surrounding old Halbrand dude. The Harfoots are saved from a wolf attack by the stranger, who injures himself using magic to scare the wolves off. Galadriel assists the Numenors with training. I do appreciate the fact that they are finally showing Galadriel being a badass, so to speak, in this particular sequence. She's been kind of like a politician of sorts for like the first 4 episodes. So I appreciate, you know, her doing the stunts and just having a little, I know it's not like actual battle, but it's nice to see her in, you know, actually doing something for once.
I would have liked to have seen in this scene Isildur actually be the one to have drawn blood on her. And that's how he got brought back into the guard.
Yes. I thought that's what they were going with.
I thought so too. That's what I thought it was leading up to, because he's sitting there staring off in the distance watching them. And she's just wiping the floor with everybody. And I figured he was going to step in, even if it was like a cheap shot, and like draw blood on her real quick. And then he'd be like, okay, well, that was the rules. So now I'm back in.
Gotta bustle y'all's boss now.
And I mean, right. So I know this happens kind of like later in this episode. Or is it next episode with the ship blowing up? I don't want to do future spoilers.
Yes,
Is it this episode?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was kind of confused by that whole scene, and guys, I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit. So just bear with us. But since we're on the topic, so he blows up the ship, and because he saves old dude that
was blowing up.
That really wasn't even supposed to be there.
Right.
That's how he gets back into the mix.
Yeah,
right?
that's I didn't like that part. That's why I would have rathered him drawn blood on Galadriel to get brought back in.
I saw that and I was like, is that really how we're going about this? Like, I think I know I've had my issues with like the Harfoot storyline and even the dwarf storyline to some extent. This portion right here is the one aspect of the show that I'm like, that was a fucking miss. That was a miss on y'all's part. That was a fairly bad mistake that y'all made in the way of storytelling, that you went this direction. When, like you said, you had him right there. All you had to do was draw blood, and it would have been super easy.
It was a good fight scene, though.
It was. Yeah, it was. So the stranger uses more magic to heal himself and nearly hurts Nori because she's a fucking idiot and decides to touch old dude while his arm is legit fucking frozen. I mean, you play dumb games, you get dumb prizes. I'm just saying.
Right? And then she's acting like she's all pissed off and scared of him and shit.
Just like a fucking woman.
Yeah, this is nothing new. Like you should. Yeah, why are you angry?
Right? You touched him.
He went and isolated himself in some fucking forest.
Right? It's not like he did it in the middle of the fucking village.
Right.
Or in your room. Like, to me, that's equivalent of like your wife walking in and getting pissed off. Like when she trips over your cord playing video games, like, you know, back in the day, like if you had a wired controller, you fucking video games. I'm like, bitch, like I was here first. Like that kind of shit. So she gets frightened in the process and she fucking hightails it out of there. And back in Linden, Galad reveals to Elrond that he knows of the existence of Mithril and believes they can counteract the fading power of the elves in Middle Earth. He mentions the ore of the lost Silmarils. So he describes, I kind of wanted to go into this a little bit more in depth because I got kind of confused about it, and we might actually talk about it a little bit more in depth as the episode goes along. But he describes the forging of Mithril from a battle over an ancient tree. An elf poured all his light into the tree while clashing with the darkness of a Balrog of Morgoth, and then lightning struck said tree, which caused this light and darkness to flow into the earth to create the precious ore. So that's kind of like the whole backstory of the Mithril. I did end up doing
backstory.
What was that?
It sounded like how they did the backstory with the Mithril.
I definitely appreciate it. As someone that hasn't read the books, that I mean, you're kind of just at this point, you're just like, hey, it's Mithril. Oh, okay.
Well, and they're really that's what Mithril is. It's just, hey, it's Mithril. Like they're really in the books. There's no healing significance, and we had covered that in one of our reviews earlier, where I had flubbed up and mixed up this storyline versus Tolkien's storyline and everything. But in real Tolkien history, Mithril is just another ore.
It's just there, yeah. But I like how they kind of did a backstory, and they had the elf and the Balrog fighting, and then the lightning shooting down, and then it running down into the mountain. So it kind of why it's there.
Yeah, I appreciate this better. It makes it have more of a mystical property to it, which I like.
Sure, and it ties it to the Silmaril.
So that they can mention the Silmaril. They can mention. I thought they couldn't mention it. Anything.
So I did some more research into this. So Amazon has television rights for anything written in The Lord of the Rings, The Appendices, or The Hobbit. They also can go to the Tolkien estate and make special exceptions on individual plot lines and stuff like that. And the Tolkien estate can approve things on a 1-by-1-by-1 basis.
But I mean, if they mention the Silmarils in any aspect in the appendices, they should be able to use them, right?
They can use the word and anything that's covered in the appendices, but not anything outside of what is written in the appendices.
I got you.
Have you ever said why they just give all the rights to them? Like, I know Warner Brothers has the movie rights.
So this was something Tolkien did back in like the 60s or 70s.
It was the time machine meme.
He sold the rights to some like United Artists or something like that, and then they sold the rights, and they sold the rights. But like the Silmarillion and the Unfinished Tales weren't actually published by Tolkien. They were published by his son, Christopher. Those all still belong to the Tolkien estate. Everything else was sold by J.R.R. Tolkien back in the 60s or 70s.
Oh, well, there y'all go, guys. That's a little backstory for you. See, that's why I have y'all on here, to kind of explain the little minor details of this shit.
One of the YouTubers I watched just came out with a video 3 days ago. So,
oh, how convenient!
It was convenient.
I'm still going time machine. Remember that meme I sent you?
Mm-hmm.
It was like women with a time machine. Girl goes back in time. Hey, I'm your grandmother. Oh my god. Guys with a time machine goes back to Tolkien. Hey, there's a company called Amazon that's going to try to acquire your shit. Don't let them. Thank you.
Yes.
It's one of those memes from the Facebook group.
Dude, that I've been kind of, now that
brutal.
we've kind of finished, I've been kind of diving into it a little bit. Bro, someone asked a question about the rings. It was almost in the same thing with what this, like, the last couple episodes were. It was involving the rings of power and whatnot, and someone said, "Go read the fucking books." I'm like, God damn, bro.
It's
Yeah.
fucking
Angry.
I'm at the point now where I'm starting to troll.
Yes.
Well, because like for the past week, everyone's been bitching about Balrogs having wings, and it's just been this big knockdown fight. So now anytime anybody posts a picture of anything, or ask a question about anything, I automatically go in there and go, "Well, I know for a fact that they had wings."
Yes.
Someone was asking about the Blue Wizards, and I think I have a theory about the Blue Wizards, and I immediately go in there. I'm like, "Well, I can tell you for a fact that the Blue Wizards actually had wings."
You got motherfuckers losing sleep over these comments.
Yes. I like it, sir. Watch it. I think we lost Preston there for a second.
What's up?
I thought we lost you there for a second.
Yeah.
But you're good now. So Galadriel apologizes to Halbrand and opens up to him, and he eventually agrees to go. Theo shows the broken sword to Arondir, and who believes that it is some sort of key designed to enslave the Southlanders. Elrond tells Durin the Fourth, and the pair return to Khazad-dûm to try to convince his father, King Durin the Third, to help the elves. Episode 5. So overall, I thought it was a solid episode. It kind of starts answering some of the questions that we've been asking through the first 4 episodes. We get a sense that Adar is not Sauron by the end of this episode. That's kind of where I'm at. Going fucking just cross his name off the list. I'm not surprised by it, because I think we mentioned that in the previous episode. I said this would be too obvious of a choice for him to be Sauron, and I don't think it is. But it would be dope if he was.
I like his character development still in this episode, especially that monologue scene.
Yeah, he's fucking solid.
And dude, he just, every time he's on screen, I'm just like, give me more of him.
His best scene is coming up in the barn. That was fucking gold.
Yes. Where we'll get to that in a second. Yeah.
Reel it back in.
Reel back in, bruh. I do think it's odd that we get this new guy for like 10 seconds at the very beginning of the episode, and that's all we see of him. I'm just going to say it, man. He's up to number 1 on my fucking suspect list.
What, the bald-headed, white-robed, evil-looking thing?
Yes.
That's a chick.
Yes. Fucking hold that thought, motherfucker. Reel back in, sir.
Yeah, no, it's Eminem. I'm sorry.
Trust me, I have a note about that later in the fucking episode. When I had the fucking epiphany, I'm like, oh, fuck, that's totally a dude. I mean, that's totally a chick. She totally has tits. All right, so episode 6, Udun. I'm assuming that's how you say it.
Udun.
See, look at that. Ostirith abandoned, but this is a trap, and the tower gets collapsed on them by Arondir. One thing is, the scene that we were talking about just a second ago happens right after this, right? No, it's with you're talking about the one with Halbrand, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So that happens in the
That's at the end of the next episode.
Okay.
Yeah, it's episode 7.
Yeah.
So one thing I find very interesting about Adar and the orcs in this show, unity. Okay, they seem to be unified because you don't see much inner turmoil between them, kind of like you did in the OG series, where they were all like fucking pissed off at each other. Like an orc looked at another orc wrong, and it was like, "I'm gonna gut you like a fucking fish, bitch," like that kind of shit. And they don't have that.
Those were 2 different orc tribes.
True.
This is one tribe.
True that. But I think I guess what my point is, it's refreshing to see. that we're getting something different from the OG trilogy. I don't need, it's kind of blasphemous when I say this, I don't need more of the OG trilogy. I have the OG trilogy for that.
Yeah. No, I like the route they took with the orcs in this, for sure.
Also, I don't know if y'all remember this. Can we please talk about Arondir shooting that huge piece of timber that comes loose and then blocks the doorway?
Yes.
Do y'all remember that?
Yes.
Bro, I rolled my eyes so fucking hard at that, but I was totally okay with it.
That was a straight up Legolas move, and if Legolas would have done it, you'd have been happy about it.
Hey, I said I was okay with it. Fuck you. Like, it happened. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And I like it. I mean, what can I say? I'll see where I'm at here. He and the refugees return to Tirha, whatever, to prepare for the next assault with Galadriel, Halbrand, and the Númenóreans while they make their way towards the Southlands. He is unable to destroy the broken sword and hides it instead. That night, a group of orcs show up and are killed by the townspeople, who are horrified to learn that some of the enemies they just killed were the people who followed Waldreg. Pretty solid way to kind of use the people. And again, like, what the fuck did y'all expect? They were gonna just fucking let y'all be in the back of the army? No.
Well, we forgot to cover the fact that Waldreg, to get into the orc tribe in the first place, had to kill what's his name's best friend.
Yes.
Yeah, that kid.
Like, yeah. I couldn't remember who he was.
Yeah, he was the best friend of
Theo?
whatever. Theo, yeah.
Yeah. I like how he's like, I pledged myself to Sauron. Wait, you are Sauron, right?
Wait, you're not Sauron? Okay, well, I pledge myself to you, whoever. Just
And I love how the show, like, again, the show is not specifically telling you who Sauron is, okay? You don't even know if he's even shown up yet in the show. And Adar doesn't even confirm whether he is or isn't Sauron in this particular moment.
Yeah.
No, he just stares him down.
I really
Stares him down and just fucking
history of Sauron.
Like, they handle that fucking well.
Yeah.
For the first season, I think that was the thing they did very, very well.
Absolutely.
Let's see here. Adar, I'm skipping ahead a little bit. Find my place. Orc archers fire on the town and wound Bronwyn. Adar arrives and Theo reveals the location of the broken sword to save Bronwyn's life. Adar attempts to flee as the Númenóreans arrive on horseback and kill or capture the remaining orcs. Overall, some decent fight scenes, some battle scenes here. Like, nothing groundbreaking or amazing by any means, but pretty solid sequences for like a TV show. Like, I don't think it matches anything like Game of Thrones had, like in terms of just battle sequences, except the last season, but we're not going to talk about that. I do have one thing to bitch about, and it's super nitpicky, but I can't stand it when filmmakers do this, okay? And this is totally a Nick thing that I'm bitching about here. I feel like, y'all know when there's a battle sequence and one guy is about to die, okay? Like, let's say he's about to get stabbed, like in the sequence, and then someone at the last second just throws something and then kills the guy that was supposed to kill him, and then they both turn at each other and just nod at each other and just stare at each other for like 10 seconds and just
Thanks,
move
bro.
on. I'm like, hey, bro, like, you know, like, shit's still going on, right? Like, hey, you might want to get up and start fighting a little bit. I don't know what it is about that kind of shit, but it aggravates me that they can take time to eye fuck each other on the fucking battlefield.
So you're talking about when Arondir was getting his ass kicked by the one beastie orc?
Yes.
But see, I liked that scene because
No.
I
was okay with that.
Before Númenóreans showed up.
No, this was after the Númenóreans showed up. This was when Arendil was about to get killed. Arundel, whatever. I was close. I'm combining names here. He was about to get killed. That's the one that I'm talking about.
Okay.
By
'Cause
the
I'm with you.
over by the well.
No, that's the one. That's the scene I like, and that was before the Numenorian showed up, where he like stabs the orc in the eye, and the orc pulls out the thing,
And he's just
and
like
it's
all over.
bleeding. Yeah,
Dude, all over his fucking face. I'm like, that's so unsanitary.
it's all in his mouth and shit like that, and you're like, ugh.
You're fucking.
Have you been tested recently?
I
But no,
I know which scene, which part you're talking about. Well,
He's talking about when Isildur saves his dad's life.
yes.
oh, okay. So not
It's just like he's on the ground and Isildur just kills him, and he just nods at him for like 10 seconds, and then he just gets up and moves about his life.
Oh,
I'm
after
like,
dramatically being sent down by the queen. Like they're standing on the hillside, and she's like, "All right, go have some fucking fun."
It's your turn now. Just you though, nobody else.
They kind of made
But-
Isildur into kind of a little bitch. To be honest,
They did. I don't know if they're working that into
a
his
bitchy
arc.
bot.
I don't know if they're working that into his arc for like
They-
season 2 and beyond, but
From what we
Yeah.
know about the future, he's got to be that guy. Eventually.
the guy, like capital
Right.
V.
Every time I fucking see him or somebody says Isil, I'm like, cast it into the fucking fire, man.
Yes.
I'm waiting because they've been kind of dropping lines from the books so far in this series. I'm waiting for them to use that line
Oh God.
just randomly throughout this season, and it makes like absolutely no sense at all. But just like, hey man, cast that into the fire.
And then like a little half second pause where they look at each other like,
Everybody's
Right.
real quick.
Okay, that nod I'm okay with.
So you're okay with the fourth wall being broken, but not the
Yes.
okay.
It's for comedic purposes. I'm allowing it. Galadriel and Halbrand capture Adar and interrogate him, but not before Halbrand almost kills Adar. And this is the scene that Creston was just talking about a second ago. So I just mentioned how I fucking hate the whole nodding at each other on the battlefield thing, and how that's a huge pet peeve of mine. Well, now it's time to mention shit that gets me fucking hard, okay, and gives me full erection status. And that's when a hero or protagonist is all like, "Do you remember me?" And then the villain is straight up like, "No."
Did I kill somebody? Did I touch you? Show me on the doll.
I'm telling you, man, that shit makes me diamond status when they fucking go that route with a villain. And this was no different. But in all seriousness, I think this is a great fucking scene and great
Oh my
storytelling.
back in the barn once he's like talking about the Uruks and stuff, man.
Yes.
Woo.
Yes. Which
Knocked
we're
it
gonna get into. Save the Uruks for just a second. We'll talk about that scene, but then we'll come back to the Uruks in just a second.
All right.
The fact that we're 6 episodes in, and we have so many episodes, or so many questions, excuse me, and now we have another one. Like, how does Halbrand know Adar in this case? They're just further developing both of those characters here, which I really appreciate and enjoy. And now I'm starting to question everything about Halbrand. Okay, that dude
Right.
he's shooting up the suspect list here. Okay,
All right.
he is,
And right before he
100%
walks
a
out of the
suspect.
barn, Adar's like, "Nah, but for real, dude, who the fuck are you?" like, hold on, man. Like, I actually need to know. Who are you?
But what do you think about this scene there, Creston? I'll let you have the floor.
The barn scene?
Yeah.
Oh man, it was fucking magical. You got Adar, cool as a cucumber, fucking chained to a post, just impenetrable. Galadriel's like, "You're fucking beat, you know. I'm gonna make sure all your people die." And he's like, "Nah, fam, we're gonna wreck this shit. Trust me." And it's like, for some reason, I'm like, I fucking believe this guy.
Right?
He's down on the chips, but he's confident, man. Fuck.
Listen, when a villain is tied up and you have captured him, and he legitimately does not give a fuck. Guys, we have issues.
Right.
I mean, look at the Joker in The Dark Knight.
Right.
I mean,
When he keeps correcting her, and she's like orcs, and he goes, "We prefer uruks."
ooh.
Oh, I see. I was like, this dude is fucking confident.
Don't call me
Right?
by my slave name.
So, kind of going back to the Uruk here, okay? We're starting to get like answers on who Adar is, and I had to Google this because I wasn't 100% sure, and we can kind of discuss it a little bit more if y'all want. Apparently, Morgoth corrupted elves into the first orcs, which is the Uruk, correct?
Well, uruk just
Adar.
means orc in dark speech.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
so
that
they just don't.
first
They
that was the first rendition of the orc was corrupting elves.
so just don't call me by the O word, essentially.
Right. Yeah. If you're gonna call me by my native tongue.
Right. I'm an OG son. And I mean,
She-
she kind of alludes to the fact that she knows, like, all right, this dude's been around for a hot minute. When she starts talking about Morgoth corrupting the elves and shit.
Mhm.
And it was nice how he kind of like threw in there. He goes, "Where are you from?" He goes, "Oh, that river. Yeah, I've been there. I've seen that a few times." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" "Well, I used to be an elf like you."
Check out the fucking ears, bitch.
Which exactly. So, I mean, did y'all know that beforehand?
um,
About Morgoth corrupting the elves?
Yes, and
Yeah.
like Adar being a
I had my
previously an elf.
suspicions, especially whenever he was talking to the one orc in the woods with his arm burning and everything, and he's staring off in the sunset. I had pretty much assumed that he was a corrupted elf.
Yeah. To be honest with you, from the first time I saw him, just having read the Silmarillion, I was like 99% sure that's where they were going with him.
Yeah, I kind of, you know what, when he was talking with Arondir, whenever Arondir was captured, and he was like, "I got a message to send back to your people."
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like at that point, I'm like, he's a dark elf.
Yeah. Anytime he's interacting with elves, they're like, hold on, man. I'm getting a vibe from this guy. Like,
Well, and the whole, why do they call you Adar, which is, elf for father? And it always alluded that he was elvish.
Right. Or when they were at the tower and they're like, nobody's here. And he's like, the elf's here. I can smell him.
Yes.
He's like, what?
Wait, you can do that? So I guess we'll kind of further explain it a little bit more. Urukai is different than Uruk, correct?
So, Urukai means orc folk. That's the translation for it.
Mhm.
Those are the hybrid that can move
Yeah.
in the sunlight and shit.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, they're. I wouldn't even say they're hybrids necessarily, as they're just more specially trained. So an orc can train himself to tolerate sunlight, and there were Urukai made by Saruman, and there were also Urukai made by Sauron. So there were two different Urukais in the Lord of the Rings books. And then you also just had your standard orcs and and the goblins are also another word for orc. It was interchangeable with Tolkien.
Because there's like almost a distinct difference in the OG trilogy between like goblins and orcs, when in reality, like you said, almost interchangeable,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
according to the books, anyways.
Yeah, I just I don't know. I thought the movies that if I wish the OG trilogy would have better explained that. I mean, you just kind of assume that when they say the Urukai and they just show up, you're like, okay, the badasses are here. But
Well, yeah.
kind of dive
They,
into it a little bit more.
yeah, they were like the elite. They were like your Green Berets or your SEALs of the orcs or the Urukais. And they were just more specially trained at what, and they might have been like selectively bred, but they weren't like hybridizations and stuff like that. And there were orc hybrids, orc men and men orcs and everything else like that too. But the Urukai were just your special forces orcs.
Didn't Uruk-hai that were in the OG trilogy when Saruman was first digging them out of the ground, they had the elf ears, right? They
I
had
think
the
I don't know. I can't remember. But that was the whole thing too. Is the book or the movies tried to make it look like they were
corrupt.
hybrid or
Yeah.
corrupted something.
So Halbrand is hailed as the king of the Southlands. Theo realizes that the broken sword is missing. Waldrick has it and uses it to unlock a dam beside Osterith, sending water through the orcs' tunnels and into a lava chamber beneath the mountain. The resulting eruption covers the Southlands. First off, okay. There's lots to discuss.
Holy shit!
Okay,
Bro.
before we get to the good part,
Hold on.
the fact that this random elf shows up and goes, "Hey guys, this is the king that you guys have all been promised," and at no point in this entire series so far has anybody in the Southlands that we've seen talked about the missing king that we needed.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, this random dude shows up with a talisman, and they're like, "He's the one? He's the one we've been waiting for?" And I'm like, "Motherfucker, you didn't mention him once."
At least with Aragorn, everybody was like, they're the king's not here and shit like that. Like at least they mentioned it.
Right. Not once did they ever mention a missing king or whatever that they've been waiting to bring them salvation. And then some random dude shows up, and they're like, "Oh yeah, no, he's the guy that's going to follow you. Here's your hero."
These guys, this is
You've
the
been
king.
working really hard, Bronwyn, and you've really united your people. But you know what? We're going to take the weight off your shoulders. Here's this strange man you've never met before.
Bruh, that was almost a little condescending, that conversation with her. Oh, you're going to make a great leader. But we're going to take that off your shoulder because I got a guy.
I know a guy, okay? When did Waldrick get the hilt, by the way?
I don't know.
That dude came out of nowhere.
Motherfucker committed, though, man.
Oh, Adar, whenever Numenor was rushing, and Adar walked outside and said, "Waldrick, I have a task for you."
Okay, I was like, he either swapped it at that point, or I didn't know for sure.
Yep, that was when they made the swap but didn't show it. They just said Adar just said, "Waldrick, I have a task for you," and then
because they named the little knapsack.
Yeah,
fucking Waldrick, man, he's committed. That was badass how they did that too. How the sword fucking plugs in, and then all the water rushed into the volcano. Bruh.
And so
I said my eruption.
well, and so I was just like, water wouldn't do that. That's stupid. So I watched a video of somebody dropping a bucket of ice into a volcano. Legit made that motherfucker explode. And I'm like, okay, they had it right. The science worked.
Creston, that is such a Nick thing to do. That is 100. I don't fucking believe that and watches a video on it. I respect it, man. Honestly, I respect it.
I was like, okay, the science fit. It checks.
Man.
So, I have my initial reaction wrote the fuck down, okay? Because it was like a light bulb just flipped the fuck on when it happened. I was completely oblivious to all of this shit going on, okay? Like, the tunnels were used the whole time as an overall plan for this. Adar, savage as fuck here, planning ahead. One of the best villains.
Right. That's why I was so confident in the barn.
Right? Fuck. As soon as, like, when the water's going down into the volcano, initially I was like, are they trying to create like Isengard here? Like legitimately, like I don't have any knowledge of the books or anything like that. So I was like, is that what they're doing? I don't think that doesn't really make sense to me. And then when it exploded and the volcano exploded, I was like, no fucking way. Is that fucking Mount Doom? And bro, I was so erect. So erect by the scene. The volcano exploding looked so fucking cool.
Oh, man.
I'm determined like all like I would say 30% of their budget went to this fucking sequence because it looked fucking great. As soon as that scene happened, I was just like, okay, next episode, let's fucking go.
Now,
Just wait.
whenever they erase the Southlands on the map, and then Mordor pops up.
Yeah.
That was fucking fantastic. Because I'm not gonna lie, when they would do the when they would do the map shit, which they haven't done in as much in the last few episodes. Granted, they haven't been traveling as much, but I've been looking to see, like, I thought Mordor was just like already a place, to be honest with you. So when it came out fucking nowhere for me. Was not expecting it.
I like that whole sequence too, because like they shoot, everybody's like dying and running and everything else, and then they go back into the barn, and the barn is burning, and all you see is just empty handcuffs sitting there. And you're like, where the fuck did Adar go?
Fucking dude to sneak, man. But seriously, probably the best overall episode that we've gotten up to this point, I would say.
Oh.
Well, this was a fucking great episode.
Yep.
Episode 7, called The Eye. Galadriel wakes up covered in ash, surrounded by fire, and finds Theo. Some pretty good looking scenes here early on, especially when they cut from like the burned land to like the more lively areas where the Harfoots are. I like the whole dichotomy between those two scenes. Muriel loses her eyesight. Isildur is presumed dead. The Harfoots arrive at their destination, an orchard that has been destroyed by the nearby volcano. The stranger attempts to fix it, but endangers Nori and her sister. Scared, the Harfoots send him away, only to find the orchard regrown the next day. What was that, Crescent?
I mean, again, though, like, he endangered him, but the fucking little kid ran up there.
Yeah.
When the tree fell.
Stay in your place.
Bad rap for nothing.
Right?
Like, who's supposed to be watching that kid?
It's the parents' fault, not his.
Motherfuckers can't do magic anywhere anymore.
Right. You shot knocked first. So as we near the end of season 1, I still think this is the weakest aspect of the entire show so far. I wouldn't say I dislike it by any means, but I feel like the pacing of the storyline has been really lacking. At least with the other storylines, we have like multiple questions and can look ahead to where those storylines are kind of going.
Yeah,
with the Harfoots.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the Harfoots, the only real question we have that we're asking ourselves is, who's the stranger?
Right.
Exactly. That's what's keeping my... I gotta say, though, just kind of jumping ahead, but once shit starts popping off in the finale, it pricked my interest up, so to speak. I'm fully vested.
I will agree with you, sir. Nick might not, but I agree with you.
That's okay. That's okay. He's just building it up for that season 2 premiere.
That's it. I'm just waiting for it.
So meanwhile, Elrond and Durin the Fourth failed to convince Durin the Third to help the elves. They are caught mining mithril in secret, and Elrond is banished, taking a small piece of it with him. Durin the Fourth is stripped of his royal status, and Durin the Third seals the mine. So I mentioned that the Durin Elrond stuff has been good, not great, up to this point. I think these particular sequences have really convinced me that it was kind of like more of a slow burn building of that friendship and brotherhood that has led to that loss of his title and his father. I really dug these sequences, and it got me on board. Yes.
God damn, that was hot, sir.
It was. And then when it
I knew where it was going.
No, the second I start falling in the cave, I'm like, yes.
You're talking about that. That's a little bit ahead, sir.
No, the leaf like coming back to life near the mithril was a nice touch. But I'm talking about when Durin the Third's like close it off or whatever and tosses the leaf and it falls in the hole and winds further down and lands next to a demon from the underworld.
With wings.
With wings.
It's settled.
Yes. I liked both those little touches. And when it started falling and no future spoilers, but it's a future spoiler for like the season finale and whatnot. Actually, it's really not even a spoiler. It's more of a what doesn't happen. We get teased of the Balrog, but he never really comes back. So season two there.
Season 2 is the fall of Khazak Doom.
Oh, you know what we didn't talk about? I think it was episode 6 when Durin is with Elrond in Linden, and they're like having lunch with Gil-galad, and he's all standoffish, and he's like, "Where the fuck did you get this table?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And then they got all these fucking elves packing it through the woods.
And then he tells Elrond, "Yeah, bro, like that's nothing. That's nothing special."
These are one a new table. And then Elrond tells him about needing the mithril, and he's like, "Whose hands?" Yours.
Stroke it's a little bit longer.
Right? Yes, by my hands. A trio of mysterious people arrive in search of the stranger and destroy the Harfoot's caravans when Nori attempts to misdirect them. Galadriel and Theo are reunited with Bronwyn, Arondir, and a gravely injured Halbrand. Galadriel takes him to receive elvish medicine while the Númenóreans depart on their ships. Muriel vows to return for revenge. And Nick sent me and Creston a meme about this, but I already had this fucking note down because I noticed it too. She fucking tells him, "Don't tell anyone that I'm blind." And then in the very fucking next scene, she has a blindfold covering her fucking eyes.
I gotta say, those balls look good for having been charred with fucking fire. Enough blind.
Right? I was like, is she blind? Because it doesn't look like it.
This bitch
Like they
is
should have
fake.
like changed the eye color a little bit. You know,
Right.
something.
Make him a little bit foggy or something.
Yeah.
She didn't want to be in battle anymore, so she's like, "Oh fuck, I've been blinded. We gotta sail back."
And like, how do you even like test somebody if they're blind or not? Like back in the in those days, you know, like, oh fuck, we just gotta trust her.
No, just, whoa.
That's true.
Dude, I straight up thought Elendil was gonna do that. When they're like, "How long have we been out the smoke?" And he's like, "This bitch is bullshitting." Yeah.
Made you flinch.
So, again, we've already kind of mentioned it. Unbeknownst to the dwarves, the Balrog lives deep below the mine. The Southlands, now a land of orcs, is renamed Mordor. Another great episode.
Absolutely.
If we want to go in terms of like all the storylines together being good and consistent, you got to put this at the top, like at one of the top episodes of the series so far, I think.
I think it was
like
great, especially following up that climax of the volcano erupting and learning so much about Adar.
This would
And
have
the
been a good
climax.
season finale. I said 6, maybe 7 would have been a good season finale where the Southlands disappears and Mordor, and then scene. That's it. Next season.
Hey,
Right. Yeah, if what happened in the finale didn't happen in the finale, I would say yes. But I think the way they did it, because it's called the fucking Rings of Power, it was perfect. We're getting ahead of
Yeah, we're getting ahead. We'll discuss that in a minute.
Hey, Creston, you know what would be a great season finale?
What's that?
Episode 8. It's a great
Episode
season
8 was
finale.
good. I was thinking it would be a perfect finale.
But yeah, this episode ended on a couple big reveals that, you know, I can only get so erect. A Balrog and then Mount Doom and Mordor. Like, guys, there's more than one eruption going on here. Okay, I promise.
Absolutely.
All right. Episode 8, Alloyed. I mentioned it a little while ago. I said we'd come back to it, okay? I told Nick to reel that shit in. The 3 women find the stranger and tell him that he is Sauron. One, totally thought that was a dude the entire time, okay? Until I saw the tits.
Did you think it was Sauron when they said that, though?
Yes. Yes. I was like,
good idea who I thought was Sauron, and then the first time I watched that episode, I was like, what the fuck? Like, no, this guy can't be fucking Sauron.
yeah, he's just like a big buffoon the entire season. Like, he just didn't scream Sauron to me.
Yeah, and they talked about like the veil and stuff. being like over his mind, and I'm like, okay, this is fucking tracking. Are they really gonna make this dude fucking Sauron? Like,
When I first saw this, I was taken aback by it because we mentioned this in part 1 that he was another one of the probably too obvious to be Sauron and
right?
shouldn't be Sauron. And when they said that at the the first 5 seconds of this fucking episode, they say he's Sauron. I'm like, bro, like we still got an hour to go. Like, why are we fucking saying this now? So yeah, I no future spoilers, but I was in agreement. I thought that's what I believed him. I believed him. So Galadriel and Halbrand arrive in Eregion, and the latter receives medical attention. As he recovers, he grows interested in Celebrimbor's work and suggests a way to create a small object with Elrond's mithril. May I suggest a ring of sorts? I don't know. Just saying.
Dude, I gotta say, overall, I really like how they did. I mean, obviously it doesn't follow or track with how the rings came about in the books, but I really enjoyed the storyline of how they did it, like involving all the main characters that we've been having.
My main issue with this is you got Celebrimbor, who is like the master smith, and then you got Halbrand showing up a day after he's been magically healed by elves. And he goes, well, why don't you stretch out the metal by mixing it? And Celebrimbor's like, well, we can't. It's too special of a metal. And he goes, yeah, but you can. And the Celebrimbor was like, oh my God, you're right.
He believed him. Wasn't really, should have been more surprising, I guess. But the fact that he knew wasn't really surprising.
It was the back and forth that threw me off. It was just like Celebrimbor's like, nah, we can't. It's too pure. It doesn't like to mix with anything else, and it will just dilute it. And then Halbrand's like, but will it? And Celebrimbor's like, you're right, it won't. Let's do it. Find something.
He also to him like, instead of trying to mix it with something that might dilute it, mix it with an alloy that's going to amplify the light.
Well, I understand that, but you would think that a master smith, the best smith in all the elves, would already have been like, let's try and find something that will equal it. Like, you don't need some random human that shows up to tell you, well, if we're going to mix it with a metal, let's mix it with a good metal.
The reason
Creston's fucking face over there.
It's like,
this is a good point to mention that if you did not know, we are on YouTube and Spotify. You can watch the video version of this podcast, by the way. So I think this is a good time to revisit a little something. Halbrand. At this point in the show, I think I'm wrong about him. Okay, dude is starting to be super fucking suspect. And what if this dude is just Sauron in disguise the entire time? And I'm legitimately going to lose my shit if that's the case, because they put little breadcrumbs here in like the last couple episodes. They're starting to drop these little breadcrumbs about him, and I'm like, it's like little lines here and there, and I'm like, why would he say that? You know,
like what he said to Celebrimbor that he in turn said to Galadriel, which made her suspicious.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then like he just, like, to Nick's point, he just walks in and just like, why don't you do this? And it's like, how did you know that?
He's like
that's awfully suspicious. So y'all just keep that in the back of your minds here, okay? The Harfoots find the stranger and attempt to rescue him from the women that were totally dudes, but not dudes. The stranger, receiving encouragement from Nori, uses magic to banish the women to the unseen world.
What does he turn?
Wait, what?
What does he turn him into, though?
I think he just turns him into. He just banishes them.
Well, he turns them in, or he reveals them as wraiths, and
Mhm.
then as he puts them back into the netherworld, they turn into what?
Moths.
Moths.
Huh.
Yeah.
Didn't catch that. Well, my how the turntables.
Crumbs to come.
Crumbs to come. That should be the
Coming.
fucking slogan. Right? I will say this. Can't fucking fool me, motherfuckers, okay? It didn't feel like he should have been Sauron the entire time. And like I said earlier, they almost pretty much had me convinced. I was like, I still don't feel right about it. Like, they're telling me it's Sauron. What was that?
I was disappointed a little, honestly, because I was like 100% sure that he was one of the wizards and was definitely not Sauron. So when they're like, Master Sauron, he's going to learn to control his power, the veil's got to be lifted. I'm like, nah, bruh, fuck that. This guy's not Sauron.
Yeah, from day one, I thought he was a wizard.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we all said that in episode 1, who we thought he was going to be.
Yeah,
and
but they called him Istar when they're like, he's not Sauron, he's the other one.
He's the other one.
Did they say the other one, or he's one of them?
He said he's. I think they said he's the other one.
Okay,
Which was weird because that made me think like, were there two fucking meteors that struck or something? Because that doesn't track even with the story that they have going on.
Yeah,
in the series. But then they called him Istar.
Yeah,
I don't know what kind of staff they had, but homie
dude,
was
they had some pretty cool fucking powers.
Yeah,
they were pretty OP.
Yeah,
up until the point that he got his powers and he fucking just banished.
Yeah, until you remember, like, oh shit, I'm a badass, bro.
I remember.
I remember, and I like moths.
So Gladriel reviews records on the kings of the Southlands and realizes that Halbrand is not who he fucking says he is.
Suspicious.
She confronts him, and he reveals himself to be Sauron. She refuses to join him, and he flees to Mordor. Holy fucking shit. This was so fucking good. Okay?
Yeah.
So good.
That whole sequence, man. Like, from how he described himself to her before he even said the word Sauron, to the fact where he was, like, in her mind, making her think she was in the meadow. He was pretending to be her brother and shit. That was fucking...
And he's just in her ear like, say my name.
And then when on the raft, dude, he's super fucking convincing, too. It's almost like, damn, you should join this guy.
Right. Like, he's legit. Yeah.
And I think Nick had texted our little group chat about how it was a little disappointing the season finale was. So I texted Creston on the side because I didn't want to hear shit from you, Nick. I was like, bro, this was fucking just and me and Creston jerked each other off to this particular sequence.
We absolutely did. It was like two fucking Mount Dooms chasming over each other.
Well, look, I think there were too many reveals in this season. There's
what?
Well, there's too many reveals. Like, okay, so we know who Adar is now. We now have Mordor. The rings have been made. We know who Sauron is. We know that the stranger is a wizard. They have answered every single question we've had for this series.
I like how they kind of tied those questions together, though, because for, up until maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago, Adar, Halbrand, the stranger, all 3 of them were like suspects to be Sauron. And we don't really know who the stranger is. We just know that he may or may not be a wizard. I mean, I know who he is.
I don't want to know who he is.
Yeah, as much as it hurts.
It's him.
Remember what he told him?
I know. I don't want it to be.
She's like, I don't know which way to go. And he's like, it's this way. Maybe. He's like, if all else fails, Follow your nose.
Also, really good about this whole sequence is I really love how they are making Sauron an actual character in this show. Like, I know some people will bitch and moan about, it's kind of like the Michael Myers effect when Rob Zombie went back and kind of dissected who that character was, and people were like, kind of lose some of the mysticism behind him and whatnot. Which I can understand that more so, but like the fact that we have a face with the name now, and there are motives there of why he's doing what he's doing. He's trying to create peace, but Galadriel questions him on that because it sounds like he just wants to rule, and then he responds with, "What's the difference?"
Yeah, it's the
Fucking
same bit.
great.
I mean, what people have to remember though is in the OG trilogy, Sauron couldn't take a physical form. In this time frame, he was still able to, and he's a fucking shapeshifter. From a human to an elf to a fucking beast.
So the question is, do they? I'm assuming they just keep the same character, like the same actor for.
I mean, for future spoilers, they do not.
They don't?
No, I've heard that there's a new actor.
Well, they've
So
already cast a new guy to play him, but I think they still have Halbrand, that actor.
I really hope they go that route because
yeah. From what I had read is the new guy they've cast for the Sauron part is playing flashback Sauron, and Halbrand will still be playing present day Sauron.
Dude, I'm ready for fucking full blown, no secret Sauron with this fucking iron suit on and that fucking helmet, son. Well, like you saw how the ripple of the water kind of showed like the reflection of him with his fucking helmet on when they were on the raft and he was inside Galadriel's mind. Woo! I'm ready for that Sauron to show up.
Yeah. Dude's gonna wreck some folks. Cast it into the fire!
Bro, he used to live on an island with werewolves and vampires. Maybe they could bring some of those along for season 2.
So, choosing not to reveal this, Galadriel encourages Celebrimbor to move forward with the plan, but makes 3 objects instead. Regaining some of his memories, the stranger explains to Nori that he is a wizard and needs to travel east. Nori decides to go with them. Elrond finds the records and deduces what happened, but too late. 3 rings of power are forged, and this kind of completes Galadriel's arc up to this point. She had to use the dagger to finish the rings, and that dagger kind of meant, I don't know, to me that was like her quest for vengeance, anger, and darkness.
That was closure.
Now,
brother, that was a really nice touch. We need something pure from Valinor, and I was like, these motherfuckers. I like how they used the gems, gems of Fëanor, like the actual 3 elven rings. Again, how they come to be is completely different from as far as the book goes, but I really like how they did that. I don't know how they're going to incorporate, or even if they are, the rings for the dwarfs and the rings for men. I'm assuming those are going to come about eventually.
That's the thing that I'm most interested in for like season 2. Are they even
going to have them? Like, they got to, right?
I'm assuming the series ends at the beginning of Fellowship. I'm assuming.
After
with the epilogue, with the prologue.
Yeah.
They bring back old school Elrond to be in the in fucking Mount Doom with the sealed door. Cast it into the fire. No. But yeah, I'm curious to see how they're going to track that stuff because, are they just going to decide to make rings on their own? Like the whole reason they were made in books was so that Sauron could, see into their minds and, persuade them.
And Celebrimbor helped make them with Sauron. So at this point, there's 20 rings total. So they had made 16 rings before Sauron fled and then the 3 Elven rings were made afterwards,
After
and
the fact.
after the fact, and then Sauron made the last ring.
Yeah.
See, I thought they were doing it in terms of, okay, he had a hand in this. This is how he controls them. He helped make them. So I thought that's where they were going with this.
Well, Elven
maybe-
Ring actually had no control, or he had no control over the Elven Rings.
Right.
But I'm saying I thought that's what they were going with in this particular show, because he was helped making them.
Well,
Like maybe they're just changing it up.
he was in Eregion, and he helped Celebrimbor make the rings for the men and the dwarves. And then he was found out. He left, and then that's when they actually made the 3 rings for the elves. So in the, as far as the book goes, he wasn't involved in making the elven rings.
I got you.
He designed the process, but he didn't actually make them.
Right. So I'm just curious, like, how they're going to incorporate the making of the other rings, or if they are. I'm assuming they are, because the song at the end of the finale was singing the song.
It's the poem, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice little touch. Nice little touch.
Yeah, it was. That's some
I was
goosebumps.
like, hey, I know that. I know those words. So I guess we'll close out this episode with kind of just our overall thoughts of the season as a whole. Chris, I'll let you go first.
As a whole, I feel like they knocked it out of the fucking park, man. I enjoyed this from top to bottom. There were some slow parts, especially with the with the Harfoots. But like I said, by the end of it, I'm fully invested in that part of the story, in their story, I should say. I feel like the Harfoots, like, caravan's probably going to fall off, because now you have the Stranger and Dory going off, so it's probably going to be their story bouncing back between. I'm really excited for season 2. I feel like they did not cut any corners on the sights and the sounds. The wardrobe was fucking fantastic. The music, every time the fucking orchestra comes in, it just felt like it was, had that OG quality to it. So overall.
And Nick, what about you, sir?
The season overall was solid. I mean, obviously, I have my complaints over certain things. Well, whatever. I have my complaints over certain things, and the pacing was definitely off. I'm going to piggyback on Crescent and say that the Harfoot storyline, I would have rather not seen it in this season. I think following so many storylines at once was just too much. Keep it simple. Keep it with 2 storylines. Have Galadriel and Elrond's story, and then let's introduce the Harfoots in season 2 for 1 or 2 episodes of just solid Harfoot for 1 episode, 1.5 episodes, with the conclusion ending off where it is. I think instead of it having spaced out like it was, where it was nice and slow, or not nice and slow, just slow and boring, having 1 episode just get us through it, and now we're where we need to be.
Yeah,
right. I'm gonna offer a rebuttal to that. Okay. And I'm gonna use The Walking Dead as an example for why I feel like this. So, do you remember The Walking Dead? Do you remember the what the fuck was his name? The dude with the patch, the bad guy.
Oh yeah, the governor.
Governor, that's what it was.
Yeah.
They decided to do a one-off episode strictly devoted to him, and it's like, okay, this is like the most boring shit ever, and I have to watch 45 minutes of it. I would rather watch 5 minutes here or there rather than sit through the Harfoots for an hour long.
I don't know. I just don't think they added anything to the story at this point.
No, you're not wrong there. They definitely didn't.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I don't know if having just a one-off episode of just them to get it out of the way would be the answer, but I feel like something different would definitely help.
Okay, well, we'll say the first 3 episodes, 30-minute blocks.
Oh, that's a lot of time to devote to that fucking storyline.
You can mix it in with the other stuff, and then the other thing is I think we had too many reveals. I I would have preferred to have kept the Sauron guys going on. I didn't need to meet him this season, or didn't need to know him this season.
I'm gonna be honest. I was kind of surprised they revealed him
Right.
at the very end of this. I know we had talked about it, that it wasn't gonna be revealed until the final episode, which we fucking called the fuck out of that. But I'm still surprised by it.
Yeah, I would have rather him not have been revealed. I would have even rather the rings not being quite made yet. But
Yeah, I think if they didn't reveal him, they would have had to have the rings not being made.
right.
If they were going to track with, that aspect of the book.
Yeah. So, and the other thing I would have preferred maybe is the different storylines, make them all in different time eras, and maybe add to a little bit of the story's continuity when it comes to the literature versus the TV show. Just because there's a lot of Tolkien fans out there that are just, they hate this series because it branches so far away from the literature. And I think had they tried to steer a little bit closer to the literature, they would have made people a little bit happier. I don't mind it. I mean, I understand you have to make some alterations for it to be good for television or good for movie or whatever else, and I think it's fine. I would have preferred them to do like a season 1 Witcher approach, where you're following several timelines at once.
Would you think it would be better with a flashback type extra timeline or a flash forward?
I honestly would even stick to the Witcher approach, where you don't even realize that you're flashing back or flashing forward. Everything's happening at once to you, and it's not until the end of the season that you realize that, oh, I'm following 3 different timelines.
So, I've mentioned that I watched the first episode, maybe half of the second episode, and I fell the fuck off of this series when it first started. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Episode 2 was tough. Episode 2 was the worst episode in the season by far. And it's really not even close. That's really the only episode I can watch it again, but like knowing what I know now, but like getting through it was kind of tough. I vastly underestimated how good the show was. I know Creston had talked about and you to some degree, Nick, was talking about how the show's good. It's good. But I didn't realize how much I was going to love this thing. It's a little bit of a slow burn in terms of like reveals. And then towards the back end of the season, it's a lot of reveals, which I don't have an issue with per se, because I think it kind of carries you from episode to episode. I'm going to kind of compare it to, like, this deep dive is comparable to, and I've mentioned it already, to like when we did Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I know it's games versus TV show, but like, I like the fact that my questions weren't answered within the fucking first couple hours. They dragged that shit on, and I could keep kind of trying to guess where the storyline was going, whether I was right or wrong. Now, is it perfect? No, absolutely not. I think they could have paced the Harfoot and Durin storylines a bit better if I had to really nitpick. The writing at times feels it's almost kind of like a computer generated at times with how they wrote some of these lines. And it took me out of a lot of scenes. Now, with that being said, I love the reveal of Sauron being Halbrand. I love the reveal of Mount Doom, Mordor. I was so fucking hyped when that shit went down. So fucking hyped. Like, I wanted to do the fucking episode then. Not tonight. I wanted to do it then. Galadriel really grew on me as the series went along, and I like where her character arc got taken. And the great thing is, Nick kind of says that they answered every question. I think there's still a couple of questions out there that we don't necessarily have answers to. And like Adar, I don't think, we kind of know who he is now, but like, what's his overall plan? Like, is he right there with Sauron, where Sauron has, okay, hey, you're going to do this and this and this, or is he acting on his own accord, and then Sauron just like, oh, look at that mountain. That looks like a great place to live. And just fucking goes, takes it over. Like, so there's still some questions that I have in terms of a few of these characters, which gives season 2 some stuff to deal with. But I'm fucking excited for season 2. 100%.
Do we know any have they released any teasers about any aspects of season 2?
I don't think
I
so.
don't think so either.
No, I'm going to assume they introduced the Balrog at the end of 6 or 7. I'm going to assume that if the fall of Khazak Doom doesn't happen at the end of season 2, it's going to be pretty damn close to happening.
Yeah, because I mean they still Numenor fall too.
Yeah, Numenor still, and I think that'd be a great season 2 is to have Numenor and Khazak Doom both fall.
I actually completely agree with y'all.
Tracking with the books, then that means Sauron has to be captured and brought to Numenor, and Pharazôn has to be the king. I mean, obviously they're probably going to take some different routes away from that, but I'm honestly excited to see how the Numenor thing plays out, because they're kind of alluding to it with the Palantir that's there, kind of seeing it to the future, and the islands getting swallowed up into the sea.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I could see the season finale of season 2 being the fall of Numenor and Khazak Doom, and that'd be a good way to just show the world is in complete chaos at that point, that everything's falling.
Yeah.
So I would like that. Yeah, I'd like to see that. And then now, who do you think the wizard is, Matt?
Oh, I couldn't even fucking tell you. I don't even have a fucking guess. I don't know any of the wizards' names. So,
well, you know the 3 names that we really actually know, because you got 2 blue wizards: Radagast, Saruman, and Gandalf.
Because y'all said Gandalf doesn't come around until later, right?
Yeah, but there's a lot of liberties being taken with this series.
I mean, he does have a gray beard and shit, so
he's wearing all gray. He turned them into moths. He plays with fire.
I thought when they revealed that he was a wizard, Gandalf was the first person that I thought. But I just went back to y'all said he doesn't come till much later. And I was like, okay, well, I guess it's not him then. But he was the first person I thought of.
I know Creston thinks he's Gandalf.
Oh, I know he's Gandalf, buddy.
I know he's Gandalf also. I don't want him to be Gandalf.
I don't want him to be Gandalf either, but he is. He is.
He is.
He is. They're using too many of his lines from the book, and he's too similar to Gandalf to not be Gandalf.
I mean, if we look at it optimistically, if you're going to have something that's, Lord of the Rings, you got to have Gandalf in there.
I guess. It would have been nice to see the blue wizards come to light instead of...
Yeah, they could have pretty much made up whatever story they wanted.
Yeah. Because there's really not much information on the blue wizards to start with.
They just headed east to help or west.
And that's where this wizard is going, is east.
Yeah.
But he's friends with hobbits, or what will eventually be hobbits. He wears all gray. He plays with fire. He uses Gandalf lines. He's Gandalf.
Yeah.
Well, guys, let us know in the comments below what you thought about season 1. Does it live up to your expectations? Does it live up to the fucking hype that you had before watching it? And also let us know what you think about our deep dive series into Lord of the Rings. Nick and I, in a little over 2 weeks from now, we are going to do the extended edition trilogy marathon in theaters. Super fucking excited about that. Sorry, Kristen.
Condom cat, boy. Condom cat. Don't forget him.
So super excited about that. And then obviously this summer is when the Rings of Power season 2 is supposed to be coming out. We haven't really worked out the details about that, but of course we'll be back deep diving into that season as well. So super fucking excited. This entire series so far was everything that I could have hoped it to be honest with you. So gentlemen, I appreciate all the knowledge that you have thrown on me and all the good times and laughs. It was great.
Absolutely. That's not the only thing that's going to be getting thrown on you, if you know what I mean.
Oh, sir. Don't
You
threaten
have
me
to
with a
pay
good time.
extra to see that, though.
Wait, do what?
So you have to pay extra to see that, though.
Right? You gotta go to patreon.com/2game if you want to see that kind of shit.
Yeah.
nice
the plug I was
little
looking
drop
for.
there.
Yeah, it's the Patreon subscription he was talking about. That one.
But guys, we appreciate y'all joining us, and when season 2 come out, we'll catch y'all then.